With the NFL still on vacation for about the next 2 weeks, it still ponders the question, are there any teams out there that can challenge the Kansas City Chiefs three-peat attempt?
What a dumbass. Dumb shit. Dumb shit.
Would you believe that there are actually 6 contenders?
I don't believe anything. Don't smasher.
Want to find out another team that made that list? Find out next on Gridiron Gab Pro Style.
The autumn winds move like the thunderous waves of Neptune's sacred palace. And here, amongst the blackened soil, lies the ragged hands, worn, torn, and callous. They await with cunning and vicious prowess, for the warriors have returned.
Come on, Dirt! Don't do it! Woo! No way! Woo! 85! Crying out loud! You're making me, driving me nuts!
But behold,
Welcome back, you guys. Thank you so much for gabbing along with us on this summer edition of Gridiron Gab Pro Style. I am, of course, Mr. CeeLo here. And I have been getting the business, you guys, about this Chiefs not three-peating. And, it's a talk for the ages. You get guys that, or analysts that are paid to do this sort of thing, and you get some really salty people. And I understand why. Because Kansas City has been pretty darn good, but I must admit, I'm not sold on them doing it this year because I really wasn't sold on them winning it last season. But when you stand back and you look at it, the Chiefs had a really good defense last year, and they were really good at understanding what they were as a team.
Bruh.
But we also have to step back a little bit. If you really want to look at what this team really was, and this team was fortunate in a lot of ways. They really were. They weren't overly powerful on the offensive line, and they weren't overly powerful in the defensive interior. They were really good on the back end. Spags was really good at creating opportunities in the blitz game and being very opportunistic, and that's what you have to be. Yeah! Now, I am going to say that the next team that I have to put on here is going to be a team that many of you guys don't agree with. But before we get into talking about who this next team is, I've got to say, I'm continuing to get in conversations. There was a gentleman by the name of LAAMKC that had a comment that says, number one in passing league, you're going to say the Chiefs have no running game. One, in a passing league, you're going to say the Chiefs have no running game. They haven't really had a running game since Patrick has been under center. Jet sweeps and short yardage passing game make up the running game. If Kelsey gets hurt, it's a wrap, not Brown or Worthy. And you are correct if Pat gets hurt unless Carson Wentz goes into God mode. Miami or Baltimore can't win from behind. San Fran don't have a secondary. Detroit got one coming. Houston is not ready. Those receivers can get shut down.
What?
Well, I already answered your question about Baltimore. Just make sure you go and check the show. And the team that I'm going to allude to tonight is Miami. You're saying they can't come for Heim?
I'll explain to you.
I disagree. And a comment that where is it? It was just posted up. 2025, this guy will be saying Chiefs 4-peat won't happen. That was middle-aged gamers.
Bruh.
I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that because it's not gonna be a 4-peat middle-aged gamers. They're not even gonna win the Super Bowl next year. They're not gonna be able to. especially if, as we said earlier, you're talking about those Houston Texans receivers can be shut down. I will kill that narrative later on because Kansas City secondary sus big time. And that's where we're going to go today. As we talk about the Miami Dolphins coming home and attempting to dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs.
Stop the cap.
Now, many of you are probably going to allude to that disaster of a game that the Dolphins had against the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs last year. And that's fine. You can allude to that if you choose to. But however,
You want answers?
I'm not going to allude to that. I am going to simply look at, first of all, I have to look at what the Dolphins are bringing back and what they're losing.
No, I'm afraid I'm going to have to know a little bit more than that.
Now, in free agency, they gained Shaquille Barrett. Agba, they lost on the edge. And they lost Xavier Howard, a guy who has been a shutdown corner in Miami for years. However, they did take Kendall Fuller, which I'm kind of wondering with the amount of cap space that the Dolphins have at the moment, which as of now they sit at $16 million. And they have $29 million in dead cap space. So honestly, I'm looking at this and thinking to myself, maybe, just maybe, they could talk Xavier Howard to come back. Then they took Marcus May, which a lot of people are going to say, he stays hurt. Marcus May, when healthy, is a really ball-hawking type kind of guy, which is efficiently why I say, Kansas City, throw that thing down the field if you want to. Marcus May has shown he is very dangerous down the field, and he will light up those little guys such as Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown. And Calais Campbell is a guy that they ended up signing from the Falcons. Now, people are going to say he's old. Well, guess what? He still brings a lot to desire in that pass rush. Not to mention you bring over Cedric Wilson, who is a great third back for this offense, as well as Braxton Berrios. So you get the speed, and then you get these underneath guys. Now, probably the one place I would say is going to be a huge loss for the Dolphins is Christian Wilkins. Losing him to the Raiders was a major blow to this defense, as well as losing Andrew Van Ginkel. I thought that was a major loss as well. And then they lose on the offensive line Robert Hunt to the Carolina Panthers. And there was a lot that took place with the Dolphins this year. And of course they got Brandon Jones from the Broncos. They haven't re-signed Melvin Ingram yet. And these are guys that I look at and I say to myself, they have to get these guys back. And probably a major addition on that defensive line that I thought was Jonathan Harris. So, because now you look at it and you say to yourself, okay, yes, you lost arguably one of your best defensive players, as well as Raekwon Davis. You lost him, which is not a key component if you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs because they don't run the football, as one of the comments we saw today in a passing league. All you need is pass rush. Now, will that beat everyone else in the league, like a Baltimore? Don't think so, but this is not the question. Will it beat the Kansas City Chiefs? And I am going to simply say this is where it gets interesting. The Jonnu Smith signing is very interesting because the reality of it is now you have a big guy going across that middle along with guys like Braxton Berrios and River Craycraft, these speed guys. And I'm going to be honest with you. You're looking at a football team in Kansas City that is going to be very weak in that secondary. Very, very weak in this secondary. And then on the flip side, with the signing, forgot about Odell. How can I forget about Odell Beckham? Oh my goodness. Boom. Odell Beckham Jr. This is where we look at what he did as a Ram, the Super Bowl year. You very well, because Kansas City does not have enough. And it's just like the comment that was said in a passing league. this would be a team that Kansas City does not want to get in a shootout with. You've got a bunch of guys on this team that are very, very good at going up and down the field. You don't want that. As well as you've got Raheem Mostert coming back and Jeff Wilson coming back. You got a lot of speed coming back on this team, and that is not a problem you want to have to deal with in your secondary if you're Kansas City. Meanwhile, let's look at what the Dolphins have depth-wise. Now, you got Calais Campbell and Zach Sealer, and then not to mention, you got Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. Yes, they're both coming off injuries, but you add the first-round pick Chop Robinson to the mix.
You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
So, for everybody that says that Miami's not here, all you have to do is look at what the Dolphins have added at the edge, which was the biggest problem on this defense last year. However, let's look at the secondary. Yes, they did lose one of their top priority players, as well as a guy who was the leader in that defense in Xavier Howard. But they still bring back Jalen Ramsey, and they have Kendall Fuller on the other side that they signed in free agency. They've got Jordan Poyer, Javon Holland, with Marcus May backing up.
What?
Man, y'all ain't fixing to tell me.
Awesome.
Y'all are not fixing to tell me that this team can't win this game. Because here's the reality. Let me go ahead and straighten all this out. Because
Say it.
here's the thing that I don't understand when I listen to people talk about the Miami Dolphins. Everybody wants to sit here and they want to say, oh, let's look at that game they got beat up in. Well, let's do that then. Because here's the reality.
Stop the cap.
Yes, it was an ugly game. And the reality of it was, let's look at the way the game was played. Because Mahomes didn't throw a single interception. He was not sacked a single time in this game. Now, you are not fixing to tell me that with the pass rushers they have now, you are not about to tell me that this football team is not going to be able to get with Calais Campbell, Bradley Chubb back, Jalen Phillips back, Chop Robinson, Jordan Brooks. Listen, this team has pass rushers all over the place, Kansas City fans.
Well done.
You can call it what you want. And they have a safety over the top, which you don't have a one that we show. That is, in my opinion, seasoned enough. Well, let's back up. I will give you Justin Reed. I'll give you Justin Reed. Okay, I'll give that to you. I'll give that to you. But as far as Jalen Watson and Josh Williams, you can't be serious. Let's flip that script. Let's say, and this is where I say, Kansas City, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is where I am confused. The Chiefs have $15 million in cap space.
What? What the?
Why are you not calling Xavier Howard? Why didn't you give him a call? Oh, why didn't Ladarius Sneed his money?
Dumb shit.
Who knows? Because in my personal opinion, you got to have at least one shutdown corner, one proven corner there. See, at least Miami has one, and you could argue two. You ain't going to be picking on Jalen Ramsey. You might try Kendall Fuller.
Damn, I'm good.
And then not to mention, you got to have a guy that's going to go over the top with the cheetah.
Yeah!
This is why I see this as a problem. Kansas City fans, you can say Miami no if you want to. But looking at this matchup, and then with the speed that they got at running back, this is something you guys don't have. And then you can say in a primary passing league, let's keep it real. In a primary passing league, let's make this correction. LAMKC.
You don't get it, do you? I'll explain it to you. Afraid of me?
Baltimore doesn't throw the football that much. San Francisco doesn't. There's a few other teams I can name. Detroit, before they became pass happy, was a running team. That's how they found their identity. So to sit there and say in a passing league, you need to run the ball, you need to run the ball to get rid of the game. You can sit there and say the speed sweeps and this, that, and other. That only works so often. Eventually, you're going to have to line up and hit guys in the mouth. I admit Andy Reid's one of the greatest offensive minds we've had the privilege of being able to watch. But when you deal with a team that is healthy, that's why they're 4 deep at their pass rushers. They're going to be tough on defense because these guys are going to be well rested and rotated in. To me, this is going to be the number one reason why the Miami Dolphins have the ability to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Not to mention the Chiefs don't have any proven DBs. And to hear someone say that the wide receivers of another team are not proven.
I just hear that and I shut up. Ooh, do it again. Ooh, it tingles me.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
Stop it. You're overconfident. You're thinking that getting Hollywood Brown, which was the only real significant move you made in the offseason other than Xavier Worthy. I think Xavier Worthy was the most important move you made. And then Miami has some really fast running backs. The only questions I have with the Miami Dolphins is their offensive line. That's it. That is the only question I have. Is their offensive line going to be able to hold up? That's where the question lies with Miami. And to me, Miami has fewer questions than the Kansas City Chiefs do. It's going to be whether or not Miami's coaching staff can outcoach Andy Reid and Spagnuolo. To me, that is where the difference is. Because I believe that Tyreek Hill is going to be just scare the boots out of Kansas City. Jalen Waddle's going to come in, have a pretty good game. It's not going to be that lockdown situation like it was last year because you don't have Snead anymore. And you've got Odell Beckham Jr. and you've got Braxton Berrios. You've got a bunch of guys that are going to be there. Now, the problem you have is whether your two backs can stay healthy. That has always been your problem. They can't stay healthy. They're fast as lightning, but they can't stay healthy. Well, before I get out of here, you guys, as I said, this is part 2 of the 6-part, possible 7-part series on why the Kansas City Chiefs will not three-peat. And as I said, guys, keep the comments coming. I appreciate it. But here's the thing. I would appreciate if you would do what LAAA MKC would do. Except the only difference is, I will check you on your stuff if you're correct or incorrect. But, you can have your opinion. And he backed it up with a lot of information, which is great. And I appreciate the conversation. But as I said, I believe this is how the Miami Dolphins stop the Kansas City's quest for a three-peat. But anyway, go to the Facebook page at Gridiron Gab Pro Style. Add yourself. As well as go to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo on Instagram. And make sure you comment down here. Where them Dolphin fans at? Come on and chime in. But until the next time, same Gab channel, same Gab platform.
But behold, there is a warm breeze that comes from the west. The blazing sounds of victory fuel their everlasting quest. It is a call to arms, for they are here. An army that has the will to challenge and the will to dare.
He's breaking left!